All right, my name is Ryan. This is High Carb Regenerator. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, subscribe, like the video, and let's get started. I'm actually going to do a video today that I thought up on my walk that I just did. And what is the difference between the rice diet and the raw diet? Now, the names obviously give you away what the difference is, but I've done both. And after doing, this is day 45, actually, on the raw, no, 35. I don't know. It's one of those. It's one of those. It's close to 40 or 50. I don't know, somewhere in there on raw. And I just wanted to talk about it in, retrospect and what I gone through. Now, I do have to say that I did not ride bike as much on the rice diet. So I wish I did, so I could have that to compare it to, but I do not have that in my back pocket. I think I rode like 2 times or 3 times during the rice diet because my foot was acting up quite a bit. And when I was doing the rice diet, we had to shovel a lot, which was taking up a lot of my day. We got hit. I mean, hit with snow this year. So when you're shoveling for 2 hours, 3 hours a day, you kind of don't work out. So, all right. So what I wanted to talk about first was the rice diet, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. What I did like about the rice diet is, number one, the convenience is insane. And you don't have to think about what you're going to eat. But you can actually start your day off with fruit. And I know Kempner, Dr. Walter Kempner, who started the whole thing, I think he adopted it from the Asian population, but he started the day off, I know, with citrus. Now, I'm not 100% sure what other fruits he taught or he gave people. The only one that I could find for sure was citrus. Citrus, especially grapefruit, was mentioned. And I know he had people start off the day most of the time with some kind of citrus fruit. Now, that gets harder to do as we come out of citrus season. So you can start off your day with fruit, and he also included fruit juice. So fruit juice, I'm assuming fruit juice to them was citrus, as I was saying, but in my mind, you can do like a cross between the Gerson therapy, which uses apples and carrots, and I think sometimes they add in lemon, and that's kind of how I started my day, either with a citrus juice or a Gerson style therapy juice. And then I had bananas in some form. Either I did blended bananas like a smoothie, or I just ate bananas. And then the rest of the day, we did rice. And the reason there's a convenience to this is if you know you're only doing a juice in the morning, you're only doing a banana, some banana or some other kind of fruit in the early afternoon, you don't have to think about it. You already got them. You just have to make sure they're ripe. And then you got a rice cooker. And if you want to check out a rice cooker, I have a really good one down below. I always forget to tell people this. I use it. I've had it for 2 years now. The other one I had prior to this was the same brand, and it was 25 years old when I got rid of it. They work amazingly. It's just set it and forget it. You put the rice in there, you put the water in there, you close the lid, you hit a button, and you can even put a timer on it, and it's ready for you. It's perfect. So that is the most beautiful part of the diet. I mean, it's like a lifesaver. Now, I only use white rice. He only used white rice. If you watch McDougall hates white rice for some reason. I have no idea why, even though his mentor, Dr. Walter Kempner, used white rice. So I don't understand some of the hang-ups that McDougall has, especially how he contradicts himself, especially in the area of sugar, because that is another thing that Walter Kempner used in everybody's diet was sugar. Some of the people that he had were literally eating 2,400 calories worth of just straight sugar. Straight sugar. So, sugar is not the enemy here. Adding fat in with the sugar is the enemy. It causes the Randle cycle. It blocks the receptor sites on your cells. The cells cannot take up the sugar anymore because the receptor sites are blocked. Your pancreas sends out more insulin, and it repeats this cycle until the fat is off the receptor sites and the sugar is in the cells. Now, while this is going on, you can't actually release fat. So when you can't release fat, you can't lose fat. So you got to stop that cycle from happening. It's called insulin resistance. Once you become insulin sensitive, this cycle does not happen anymore. That's why you see these skinny people who can eat whatever the hell they want to, because they have insulin sensitivity. If you are a person who can eat anything, even if it's just a straight apple and you feel like you got fat, chances are real good that you got some kind of insulin resistance or you got some other kind of thing going on, you know, get blood tested. The thing that I did not like about the rice diet was dehydration. But it's not just the rice diet. I found even worse in the starch solution, the dehydration is out of control. I had to drink almost 2 gallons of water a day. Now, I'm not saying I don't drink water on raw diet, but I am saying the amount of water that I had to drink, even just doing rice, which is actually rehydrated. And technically, I just found out today, it's a fruit as well. So it's botanically a fruit. So you're rehydrating this fruit and you're eating it. So you should, in theory, be getting more water, but it just didn't work out that way. Now, as far as digestion, when you first start the rice diet, no matter where you're coming from, because I actually was coming from a clean diet, I did notice that the digestion slows a little bit. And then maybe day 3 or 4, it really started kicking into gear and everything was fine again. That is really the bottom line. I was getting good sleep. I was not hungry. You can eat as much rice as you want, really. Now, I know that some of his people that he did monitor and he did have them on some pretty restrictive diets, those were the people that were in extremely poor condition, and he needed them to eat as little as possible so the body had time to recover and not have so much time digesting. I'm guessing why he did that, because that's why people go water fast. That's why people do juice fasting. That's why people do these diets where they're not eating as much, so the digestion can be a very minimal part of the energy reserve that you are using for that day. Now, the raw diet. I'm going to go over the positives of it right now, and then I'm going to go over the negatives, and then I'll conclude. So in my raw diet, I do high carb, low fat. I do a combination of greens, but mostly fruit. I don't digest greens well. I don't think most people do. We're not actually built to digest greens. You know, like we're not, like if you look at apes, they can eat like 20 pounds or whatever it is of greens a day, but they are actually built to do so, and we are not. We do not have the digestive capabilities to do that. We cannot break down the cell walls of a plant. So it causes, some lag in the digestion, basically. And it has barely any, if any, calories whatsoever. It does have minerals and vitamins, so it's good for that. It does have some amino acids in there. It does have some fatty acids in there. So it is an anabolic source, and it will help you rebuild if you're somebody that's doing bodybuilding or, just rebuilding the body. So if you've broken the body down through a raw diet and you really want to build it back up, then greens are a good thing, but I honestly would just juice them if I were you. If you really want to get a ton of greens in, you can juice. So what you can do is you can juice the greens, and then you can pulse blend like some bananas, and then you pour them in the same like mason jar or whatever you're going to mix them in, and then just twirl it, and it actually combines really well. So that's something that you can do. I do not suggest eating all of that fiber because you can't break it down, and there's just no point to doing it. But the positives are the amount of energy that you have, the amount of food, if that's a positive for you, that you can eat, and the insane ability to recover because your body is not wasting all of its time digesting the food. Your body just gets rid of, like fruit, for example, that can go through your body, your entire system in 30, 40 minutes. 30, 40 minutes. Now, greens are not the same, but if you're just doing mostly fruit, unless you're doing like fatty fruit like avocado or durian, but if you're doing a high carb, low fat fruit, I mean, it literally can be in and out in like 30, 40 minutes. So your body has a chance to stop digesting over here, and it can work on whatever it wants to over here. So if you've got, I don't, like in my case, my foot has been worked on. I could tell my foot has been recovering a lot more in this 35 or 40 days or whatever it is, than it did the entire 2 years before that. Why I didn't think to go raw before, I have no idea, but I wish I would have. Anyway, so the recovery isn't insane. The feeling of being clean is insane. You might go through some detox. If you go through some detox phases, and if it's really, really rough on you, then add in some cooked food and just gradually get into it. But the recovery is just, it's just like nothing unless you're like on anabolics or something like that. But it's like nothing I've ever actually gone through. All right. And then the other thing is I mean, if you have a good ripening process, you know, if you got it all set up in place and everything in place, it's basically fast food. You know, like I got bananas over there. I've got melons upstairs. I got, you know, just different fruit here. I got oranges, apples, and there's nothing that really needs to be done to this stuff. You can just, if you want to, you can cut it. If you want to just eat it, you can eat it. If you want to blend it, you can blend it. But none of this takes a long time. And so if you're somebody that does not have a lot of time on your hands and you want to be healthier and you want to have a digestion that works a lot better, then this is something that you would really want to look into. Now, do you have to be raw 100% of the time? No. If you want to get to a certain level, you might have to be. But if you don't want all the detox, or if you just want to do it, you know, during your working hours, you know, because you can just make a smoothie and drink it at work, chug it down, and you've got time. If you're one of these people that wants to work 24 hours a day, then, I mean, it works for that. And the more energy you have off of it, it's crazy. So you've got more energy to get things done. And then maybe when you get home, you just make the rice or something, you know, like rice and I don't know, a little bit of vegetable and some sauce. It works out really good if you want to do it that way. You know, I haven't been doing that way. I've just been doing straight raw. I think I've lost about 25 pounds already. I haven't weighed myself other than the other day when I showed that. Forget what day that was. That might have been Sunday. I haven't weighed myself since then, but I know I'm feeling a lot lighter. And actually, I went to the Whole Foods today, and this one girl that I see there like every time, she's like, "Oh, you're losing a lot of weight." So I think it's coming off faster and faster and faster. So I don't want to screw that up too much, but I did actually have some issues finding fruit today, which is starting to irritate me because, so, you know, it does. So I guess we're in a kind of a negative point here. Is the ripening process can be an absolute pain in the ass. Until you learn the ripening process, it can be a royal pain. That's when you're going to have a backup plan. So if you have frozen fruit, that's a good backup plan. You can make a smoothie with that, or you can make a banana and ice cream. You know, a good thing to do is buy more bananas than you actually think that you can possibly use. And then once they hit ripening, or once they hit ripe, and you've got more than you know what to do with, you just freeze them. They don't last too long in the freezer, maybe a week or two. So don't get too overboard with it. And then you freeze them, and then you can make whatever you want with them. And then you could just buy frozen fruit. You really have a hard time finding frozen bananas anywhere because they do not freeze well for very long. So it's just an absolute waste of money for manufacturers to do it. But you yourself, like, you get a good 1 or 2 weeks out of it. The better your freezer, actually, the longer it's going to last. So if you got one of these like no defrost freezers, you probably have like a good 3 or 4 weeks probably on them. But if you've got a standard, you know, freezer, then like 1 or 2 weeks. So you can do that. This is different things that you can do. You can plan ahead. You can buy more than you need, and then you can freeze some of it. Or you could just have a ripening process that really works. Now, depending on the season, you're going to have a different ripening process. Like during the winter here up in the north where you get snow and everything, I actually keep 120 pounds of bananas on hand at all times because of the ripening process. Because most of the time when you go to the store to get a case, they're going to be on the greener side. Every once in a while you get lucky. Or if you've got a good Whole Foods, or even a good any produce manager that you can call up and say, look, because most of the time the produce manager just hands off these ripe bananas to the baking department. And then they take it and they use whatever they can and they throw out the rest. But if you can call them up and say, look, I really need some ripe bananas. And sometimes they'll even give you a discount on them. So look into that. I've gotten some pretty good discounts. Like back at the Whole Foods back in PA, I knew that produce manager pretty well, and he would give me the ripe ones, raw, organic, for like $13, like for an entire 40-pound case. So that worked out really well. So you just develop relationships with these people, and everything works out. Another thing that you can do is if you've got Asian markets in your area, that is probably the best place to find fruit and even some vegetables. Now, keep in mind that they rarely ever get organic, like rarely ever get organic. So that is, if you're like an organic connoisseur, Asian market might not work out too well for you, because I've been to so many Asian markets, and there were some really big ones back on the East Coast, and none of them ever had like a ton of organic. Some of it would be, but most of the time, no. So it's really something you're going to have to play around with. Which diet would I prefer? I would have to say the raw diet. Now, that doesn't mean that I might not in the future add like a couple days of like rice for dinner or something like that. But the recovery and the amount of extra watts that I've been getting on the bike, and even I was out today on my bike, we were getting like 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and I was still able to do 18 mile an hour. That is something that I was not able to do with a lot of cooked food. So if endurance is your thing, raw diet. If you just want convenience and to get healthier, rice diet. That's all I got to say. If you got any questions about this, or you got any comments, leave them down below. Like always, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.